What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome to Week 5 of the NCPL. This week, we're going to be going against Noah, coach of the Kamloops Karrablasts. And there's a little bit of an interesting context going into this battle, but I'll probably get into that during the battle itself. I do want to talk a bit about Noah's team because it's a very interesting team. It is a good team. It's a very one-moded team, in my opinion, though. So it's got to be played in a very interesting way. And when we get into his team, we'll start off with, well, you'll probably figure out what the rest of it's about, really, just by looking at the first Mon. And that first Mon is Excadrill. Excadrill is an absolute threat. It's got a great attacking stat with the ability Sand Rush. Set it up with some sand, and it's good to go. It hits super hard with Earthquake and Iron Head. It gets Scizor. It gets Shadow Claw. It's one of the best rapid spinners in the game, and it's got decent bulk too. So this thing hits really hard. It's also got Mold Breaker, making it a great choice Scarf user as well. It's just an all-around threat. Next up is Hippowdon. Yes, it's probably not that surprising that Noah drafted Sand in addition to Excadrill. It's a bulky Mon. It's got decent base HP, base defense. Oh, okay, Spadef, but it makes it a great mixed wall. Reliable recovery, stealth rocker, sand setter. It's a good Mon. It's a phaser as well, so it can, roar or whirlwind things around, and it's no slouch in the attack stat either. It's, got Stab, Earthquake, and it's got access to Stone Edge, which are also really helpful. So this thing is also a really good Mon. And then next up is Clefable. Clefable is such a great wall in this generation. I mean, probably more so in Generation 6 than 7, but it's super versatile. It can hit super hard with Magic Guard Life Orb. It can, tank hits with Unaware. It can be, counter to setup sweepers with Unaware. It gets access to Cosmic Defense, or Cosmic Power, to raise both its defense and Spadef. It gets access to Calm Mind. It gets access to Psychic. It gets access to Bolt Beam coverage, Flamethrower, Moonblast, Reliable Recovery, and Wish Protect, or Soft Boiled. It's a good Mon. It's a good tank, is really what it is. And it's pretty threatening. Next up is Heliolisk. This is one of the Mons that I am most afraid to go up against. It is fast and it hits really hard with Stab, Hyper Voices, and Stab Thunderbolts. It's pretty frail, but again, it's really good for momentum. It's got Dry Skin as a potential ability, meaning it is immune/heals from water type attacks, which is really helpful on a sand team where you already have something like Hippowdon and Excadrill, which are water weak. So yeah, this thing can hit hard, and it's a helpful immunity. Next up is Manabuzz. Manabuzz, good hazard control, reliable recovery, great special and physically defensive bulk, knockoff for support. It can also run offensive Nasty Plot set. It can U-turn for momentum. It can toxic things. It can wear things down. It's a great support Mon. That's really what it comes down to. It's a great support Mon. It's got the ability Overcoat, meaning it's not affected by sand damage. So it's got that synergy with the rest of the team. And yeah, then the next Mon is Scolipede. Now, Scolipede is a bit of a threat. It hits pretty hard, having access to Swords Dance. The main draw, or the main attractive point of Scolipede though, is speed boost. Every single turn, at the end of a turn, its speed goes up by 1 stage. It also has access to Baton Pass, so it can speed past 2 other Pokemon on his team. It can also just naturally set up a Swords Dance and its speed will go up. It gets access to Mega Horn, Aqua Tail, Earthquake, Poison Jab. It's also got access to Spikes. Spikes and Endeavor is a very common set as well, so that's kind of scary. Scolipede is a really good support Pokemon while also being a very good Pokemon on its own. So definitely a threat. Next up is Gastrodon. I like Gastrodon quite a bit. It's really bulky. It can set up curses for physically defensive side. It's also another water immunity, and it gets access to reliable recovery, and it can still hit decently hard. It can boost up. It's pretty stally Mon, but it works pretty well, and I personally liked using it when I had it for a bit. Next up is Minior. Now, Minior is it's an interesting Mon. It notably gets a defense or especially defensive boost from the sand, which is really cool. The stats I'm showing you right now are in its normal form, but its Shields Down form has base 100 attack, 100 special attack, and 120 speed, and then base 60 defense and base 60 Spadef. So this thing is a threat. It gets access to Shell Smash, and Yeah, Acrobatics, Stone Edge, Earthquake, you know, hitting really hard on both the special and physical sides, especially, you know, at +2 from a Shell Smash, and after, you know, entering Shield's down form, it's definitely a threat to be reckoned. It usually does require that turn, though, to set up. Next up is Steelix, Mega Steelix. Look at that defense stat. That is a monstrous defense stat. It's got a solid base attack stat too. And what's really cool is its ability is typically Sand Force, meaning in the sand it gets an extra boost to its attack, which means it's going to be doing a lot more damage. It's got really bad speed, but because of something like Speed Boost, Scolipede, it can be patched. Typically, because of its defense, you really only need to invest in Spadef to make it overall a great bulk. It can phase Pokemon, it can hit hard with Earthquake and Heavy Slam, and Toxic things, it can also be a Stealth Rocker. And next up, we've got Kecleon. Kecleon, sniped from Sam, which became a meme in the league really quickly. It's a very versatile Pokemon. You never really know exactly what to expect with Kecleon. Assault Vest is very common. It can run Power Up Punch, Fake Out, Sucker Punch, Shadow Sneak, Thunder Punch, you know, physical and special attacks. It's a very versatile Pokemon. Its ability Protean makes it pretty difficult to play around because its ability changes every single time, or its typing changes every single time it uses a move. So definitely something I'm gonna have to play around if he decides to bring it. Next up is Malamar. Malamar is a pretty cool Pokemon, given it has Contrary and Superpower, meaning Contrary, if you have you know, some sort of stat lowering, you actually end up doing the opposite of that, increasing it. So every time it uses Superpower, which unfortunately is not Stab, its attack and defense go up by 1 stage. It's got pretty cool Stab in Knockoff and Psycho Cut, which is pretty neat, and it's generally kind of bulky. It typically runs a Rest Talk set with Superpower and Knockoff, but it can run a couple different things. Next up is Qwilfish. Noah does not like Qwilfish at all, but it is pretty cool in that it's got Intimidate. It's not super bulky outside of that. It can Thunder Wave, it can set up spikes, and those are its main deals, really. I believe its ability is Aftermath, meaning, actually, it might not even be Aftermath. I think it's Poison Barb or something like that, Poison Touch. But yeah, I'm not too worried about Qwilfish. Next up is Chatsaw. Now, Chatsaw is actually a pretty annoying Pokemon. It's got so-so special attack, but it gets access to one of the best special attacking moves, Boom Burst, which is Stab, and it's going to hit hard. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Specs or a Scarf Chatsaw coming our way. It's got U-Turn, it's got Heat Wave, it's got Chatter, though I don't know if Chatter's allowed. Chatter's really annoying, in that it's Flying Stab, and it 100% of the time confuses what it hits. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. And then lastly, he's got Aron. What a funny little Pokemon. He can't set it to level 1 to have that really annoying Sand plus Aron combination, which would be really annoying. So I don't anticipate this thing. If anything, it would just be like low HP, Sash, Endeavor, something like that. Actually, it gets Sturdy, so I don't know. It'd be something silly like that, but not too big of a threat. But now let's get into my team. So my team, first off, we've got Bronzong. Now, Bronzong is so good this matchup. It's running max defense with a speed lowering nature. We got Gyro Ball, Earthquake, Toxic, and Stealth Rock with leftovers. This thing is so bulky. It takes on every physical attacker he could bring, except for Malamar's knockoff. And if he's, you know, choice locked into something, we can easily come in. We can set up Stealth Rocks on just about anything. We can Toxic, you know, Hippo. We can Toxic so many Pokemon, actually. He doesn't have a lot of great switch-ins to Bronzong. We Earthquake things like Heliolisk, we Earthquake, we even Earthquake Mega Steelix, we Earthquake Excadrill. We hit so much with Earthquake, and what we don't, we can hit with Toxic. And then there are a couple exceptions like Gyro Ball for Scolipede, which already takes like 60% from a Gyro Ball, and then as its speed boosts, Gyro Ball becomes more and more powerful, and if he wants to speed boost past to something else, that makes my Gyro Ball stronger. So I think I'm feeling really good about this Bronzong. He could bring Mold Breaker Excadrill to try and hit potential Levitate Bronzong, because Mold Breaker negates the abilities of the opponent's Pokemon, but I'm not too afraid of that even in that case. And if he is Mold Breaker, I'll just be glad I don't have to worry about Sand Rush, especially because Mold Breaker is typically a choice Excadrill. So yeah, that's what Bronzong is there. A lot of physical defense. Next up is Scizor. We got a Mega Scizor. We're running a pretty defensive set with Bullet Punch, U-Turn, Swords Dance, and Roost, which is proven to be one of my more liked sets for Mega Scizor. The ability says Light Metal. That's what it'll be before Mega Evolving. That's what I always set it to before Mega Evolving. I don't know. I was a little tired when I made this slide. But yeah, we got a lot of Spadef, a lot of HP. We got a Spadef boosting nature. That's because this is one of my few, like, maybe little checks or like soft checks to Heliolisk. I've EV'd the Spadef and HP just enough so that I take a modest Life Orb Heliolisk Hyper Voice into Thunderbolt after 2 rock switch-ins. Very, very carefully tailored, but could be worth it. It's one of my few things that can actually take a Hyper Voice, and I don't want Bronzong to get worn down too easily. Also, if he brings, you know, any really type of Excadrill, Mega Scizor is really helpful for that, taking around 40% from an Adamant Scarf drill, and I'm able to roost up, SD up on it, etc., even though we're not doing a lot back to it. U-Turn, of course, is there for momentum. Bullet Punch does a lot to most things, except his really bulky Steel types, and late game SD BP is a potential sweeping option, so always good to have around. Next up, we've got Gligar. Yes, our Gligar is running Max Spadef again this week, basically because I needed something for Heliolisk. Heliolisk is going to prove a huge threat to this team, and I would not be surprised at all if he brought it, so that's why I'm prepping a lot for it. Gligar takes, you know, still a decent amount of damage, but can take on a Heliolisk with Hyper Voice. Obviously, it's immune to its electric type attacks. He could be running Hidden Power Ice for Garchomp and Gligar specifically, but if he's running Hidden Power Ice, he's not running Hidden Power Fire for Bronzong or Scizor, so that's good to know. Sand Veil, because that will increase our evasion, basically the likelihood that we won't get hit by attacks every time he gets the sand up. And yeah, Earthquake is there to hit just about everything. You know, Toxic hits just about everything else. Roost is there so we can, you know, heal up on a lot of things. Taunt is there because I don't want a lot of things setting up, like Clefable in particular, or even Scolipede. If I don't want it baton passing, I can taunt through a substitute. If he has Curse, Mega Steelix, I can taunt that so it can't Curse, so it can't Roar or something like that. And I can Earthquake it, and Earthquake will do like 15 to 20%, so it might take a lot of taunt, Earthquake, and then Roost every now and then to beat it, but I can beat it 1v1. So yeah, also it's really nice to have another electric immunity and a ground immunity, even if he brings Mold Breaker Drill. Next up, we've got Suicune. Now, he's got a couple great Suicune counters. He's got Unaware Clefable, he's got Heliolisk, and he's got Gastrin. So I am very, very wary of those mons. That said, Suicune does do really well against the rest of them. That's pretty much what it comes down to. It's got great physically defense. It can help out with Steelix. It can help out with Excadrill. It takes pressure off of Bronzong and Mega Scizor. It can also take some special hits from a lot of, well, the few special attacking Pokemon that he has, taking, you know, pressure off of Gligar. That's really what Suicune is doing. It's taking a lot of pressure off things. It can Scald to hit a lot of things super effectively, burn things, because he has primarily physical attackers. And then we're also running Roar, because I do have, you know, Hazard Setter, and you'll see later I do have, you know, Spikes. But Roar will be really helpful because I'll want to potentially waste Sand turns. I will want to potentially roar out a Swords Dance Excadrill, potentially a Curse Mega Steelix, potentially a lot of different things that could come in. He might have a Curse Gastrodon. He could switch in Heliolisk on me, but by roaring him out, I'm building up hazards damage, or I'm building up hazard damage on just about everything in general, because there are some mons on his team that are big and simply don't have reliable recovery. And yeah, that's what's really important. After 2 Calm Minds, I do take on Heliolisk 1v1, meaning it can only do about 40% or so to me with Thunderbolt, and I can roar it out, meaning I'll have 2 turns of leftovers and such. So Suicune could prove to be really helpful. I do not end up bringing Tangrowth, which is pretty surprising. It was actually one of the Pokemon that initially I thought would do best against his team, but in reality, Suicune does pretty much better against all the Pokemon that Tangrowth would do well against, and helps out with a few more on both the special and the physical side, not just alleviating physical pressure for other Pokemon. The only thing that doesn't do as well against as Tangrowth is really Heliolisk, in my opinion. We do beat Gastrin on 1v1 with pressure. It would suck if it came down to it, but Gastrin can't do anything to us. If it's Curse, which is the only one that could beat us, it only has 8 curses because of pressure, and we can roar it out so that it's not doing much damage. If it has any other sort of attack, it's not going to do anything to us, and we essentially PP stall it, which, yeah, it sucks. We could eventually beat it with hazards if we want to roar out stuff as well, but who knows. Next up, we've got Garbo Derp. Now, Garbo Derp is making its debut, I believe. It is a pretty physical set. It's 100% physically defensive with Rocky Helmet, meaning, you know, if things are going to go for Heavy Slam, if things are going to go for Iron Head, they're going to take a little bit more chip damage, which can build up really nicely. Also, it helps out with Aftermath, meaning if something does kill this with a physical contact move, it's going to take 25% HP. So, a lot of things. Well, basically, he's got a lot of physical attackers, like I said, right? So this Garbo Derp could be pretty important in building up chip damage to potentially set up for a Scizor sweep or a Suicune sweep later on. What's it called? The spikes are going to be really helpful. This thing sets up on Scolipede, which is really nice. I've got Gunk Shot for Clefable. This is also really helpful for beating Clef 1v1. Drain Punches to hit just about everything else. All of his various steel types, and hits a lot of things neutrally. Psychic is there specifically for Scolipede, meaning we do at least enough damage to prevent him from setting up subs consistently, which is really cool. And yeah, spikes are going to be really helpful this game, I believe, to build up hazard damage over time and to potentially force switches and stuff. And given I have a Phaser and Suicune, it'll be really helpful in building up chip damage on Heliolisk, which I very, very much anticipate. And yeah, next up and lastly, we have Thunderous T. It's running leftovers. I didn't have room for leftovers on the slide, so no item shown for it, but it's running leftovers, and this thing has just enough speed to outspeed a modest Heliolisk and everything slower. It is hasty, meaning its defense is lower than its Spadef, because I would maybe anticipate taking a Hidden Power Ice or a Hyper Voice from Heliolisk to attack it back with Superpower. I don't like running Focus Blast, which would obviously be the better play here to hit Mega Steelix harder, to hit Excadrill harder than something like Superpower, but Superpower nabs an Oko on Heliolisk, which is really important. Volt Absorb there, again, to make him hesitant to go for Thunderbolts. As long as this is alive, as long as Gligar's alive, it's going to have to, Heliolisk, and on my Suicune, is going to have to think twice about going for something like Thunderbolt, because he could potentially give me a free switch, potentially healing me. And Grass Knot is there for Gastrin, Superpower is there for Heliolisk and the Steel types, Sludge Wave is there specifically for Clef, and Thunderbolt hits just about everything else. Grass Knot does a good 30% to Mega Steelix, which is nice. And yeah, I was a little shaky about this Thunderous T set. I wanted to bring something with like Nasty Plot or something with Agility, but again, I didn't want to give up the move coverage. I just wanted to hit stuff hard. And yeah, that's the team. Overall, my thoughts, I like it, but I'm not super content with it. I know that I'm lacking in speed control, so I don't have any Choice Scarfers, which would be really helpful for something like a Sandrush Drill if he brings Adamant or doesn't invest fully in speed. Something to outspeed Heliolisk in particular as well. I would bring, like, you know, maybe a Scarf Garchomp I considered as well, or Scarf Thunderous T even. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't think I can really fit that sort of speed on there because I need the bulk that I have. And another thing that I'm considering, or that I considered but really couldn't find space for, is hazard removal. You'll notice I don't have any Defog, I don't have any Rapid Spin on my team, and he has access to a Spiker and plenty of Rockers. So that is kind of a scary thing, and I hope that doesn't come back to haunt me too much. I do have, Spikes and Rocks of my own, so I hope that if he brings Manabuzz, I will pressure him into defogging away the hazards that he sets up too. That was kind of my mentality, because I simply, every other move, every Mon, like, I can't find a space to throw Armaldo on this team for Rapid Spin. I looked at my Gligar set and I was like, I don't want to put Defog on this. I looked at my Scizor set and I said, you know, that one SD could be the difference between, you know, doing 60 or so and beating Heliolisk after a couple switch-ins and maybe a couple Life Orb hits, and, you know, getting swept by Heliolisk. So I don't know. I don't know is basically what I'm trying to say. Like I said, I don't feel 100% confident in it. I don't feel 100% comfortable with it. I'm going to have to play really well if he brings hazards, and I'm going to have to play really well around Heliolisk in particular. And that's about all I got. I hope you guys are excited to see it. It should be a good game. I hope it's going to be a good game. I can explain some of, like, the context and stuff I was going to talk about a little bit earlier, because this is a bit of an interesting match. But anyways, I'll see you guys in that match. But until then, this has been Midnight Zero, and this mission is complete.